afternoon. Welcome back to Money Control's live stream. You're watching Closing Bell with me, Lovisha, Darad, and joining me, my colleague Yatin, Mota. Well, Yatin, finally some green today, a relief rally indeed. Markets have broken the 10-day loss, and we have seen the headline indices both rising 1% each. Sensex did end at 740 points higher, while Nifty also ended with about 250 points higher, so above that 22,300 mark. So what eased the pain for the markets is the US Commerce Secretary's comments, which came on the possible relaxation of tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and that has brought relief across the global markets. We saw that the Asia also did well, European markets have also bounced back, and even the US futures have edged higher. So all in all, we saw a broad-based recovery. All sectoral indices have settled in the positive territory. Particularly Nifty Metal Index was the star performer today, up 4%, which was followed by Nifty Auto as well as the Nifty IT indices, which also fared well today. Broader indices, the mid-cap and small-cap indices also fared good, actually better than the benchmarks. Both of them up about 2% each. So then finally some relief, and even the bounce back that we saw didn't get sold into. So can we say that this pullback is still minor given that the large sell-off we have seen past few days?
So Lovisha, if you talk about the markets today, clearly 22,000 has acted as a key support zone. Most importantly, the market breadth today was much better than the last 10 days. 10 days have been quite dreadful for the markets. We saw, a record bear rally in the markets. Today, if you talk about the markets, the advance decline ratio was almost 10:1. So not only the large caps, but the mid caps also did well. Be it the metals pack, be it the auto pack, PSU stocks, PSU banks, across the board, barring a few private sector, banks, we have seen the markets recover well. I hope, if there is some bit of short covering from the FI desk, we could see a further relief rally in the markets for the next 2 days at least. Overall, it seems that, 2000 is one level that the bulls would like to protect, and given the fact that we have rallied to 250 points in the markets today, another 250, 500 point of a rally this week cannot be ruled out. So overall, the market setup looks good. If you look at the global markets, Europe is at record levels. Defense stocks there are doing well. Capex related stocks, capital goods stocks are doing well in the German markets as well as the France markets. So overall, globally also we have seen the risk on, especially with the dollar index weakening, metals as well as Chinese stocks are really doing well.
Prices also have cooled off $70 per barrel, so that's a plus for our Indian markets too. But let's see some of the top Nifty gainers and losers at this point of time. Well, Adani Group stocks have done well. Adani Ports seeing a gain of about 5%, and of course Adani Enterprises also seeing a gain of more than 4.5%. This came after news reports suggested that Adani Group is planning to raise over $12.5 billion. So that is why the majority of the Adani Group stocks are doing well in today's trading session. Steel stocks also did well. Tata Steel dominating the Nifty 50 gainers list with about 4.5% gain. This came after China announced that it would restructure its steel industry to cut output. So any less dumping of cheap steel into Indian markets, that made the metal stocks rejoice into today's trading session. Then we saw Power Grid also did well, 4% gains coming in after it backed the transmission projects. M&M also doing well, 4.3% uptake came in. We'll discuss more about the stock in detail later in the segment. On the other hand, on the contrary side, we can see financial stocks dominate the list of the Nifty 50 losers pack. Bajaj Finance seeing a cut of about 3%, IndusInd Bank a cut of about 1.5%, and HDFC Bank also not doing well at this point of time. But yes, the star performance definitely has to be the mid-cap and the small-cap indices. They have eked out gains about 2% each. Yatin, what are you gathering from this space?
So as you were mentioning, Lovisha, the Adani Group stocks clearly making a good day today, 5-10% average gains for the group companies today. Apart from that, IIFL, that stock zoomed 11%, one of the top FNO gainers, apart from Coforge, which moved 8%. Hindustan Copper, NBCC and Nalco, these are the PSU stocks which did well. Amongst others, we had stocks like, Vedanta, Crompton, Geo Financial as well as Hudco. Making a comeback in the FNO trade. On the losing side, BSE obviously, because we had the changes done by NSE on the expiry day. So that stock dipped 10% intraday. However, there was some recovery which led to an eventual 4% fall for the day. IndusInd Bank, Voltas as well as Muthoot Finance were the other losers in trade today.
That's right. Now let's break down some of the key stocks that did grab limelight today. Well, the first up is your Tata Motors stock, which saw a gain of about 3.5%. So the stock surged after Morgan Stanley said that they see nearly 40% upside from its current levels. While the brokerage did retain an equal weight rating on the stock, which is equivalent to a neutral rating, but it did share a target price about 853 rupees. So what Morgan Stanley believes is that the sale of Land Rover in US have seen a pickup in the month of February. And since US has formed 23% of JLR's last year sales, this is a big positive coming in for Tata Motors stocks too. Do remember that last year several brokerages had turned cautious on Tata Motors, declining order book from the JLR and had cut target prices on the counter, which made the stock slide quite significantly. So any pickup in sales in February is quite a good sign for Tata Motors. Basically for February, JLR sales in US rose 79% from last year, which is higher than 70% growth which is seen in January and even the 34% growth which was seen in December. Morgan Stanley also highlighted that the European Commission's industry action plan is also a key trigger to watch out for the stock going forward. Basically, any flexibility on carbon dioxide regulations will be a positive for JLR. Yatin, the stock has been trading near its 52-week lows, but now that we are seeing a pickup in JLR sales, which has been a pain point for Tata Motors, a reversal could be on the horizon.
Possible, and 700, 750 were the key support zones which the stock had broken, post which we saw a 10% kind of a sell-off. But now, given the fact that the global setup looks good and majority of its business, which is JLR, gets a lot of orders from the European markets and the China markets, which are doing well in general. So probably at the global level, luxury car sales would pick up, and a probable benefit could be Tata Motors. We saw that in Feb sales. Not that bad versus what the street was expecting. Overall, the order book also for JLR remains healthy, as far as Tata Motors is concerned.
That's right. Since we talked about Tata Motors, there was another automaker that did grab the limelight, and of course, it made it to the top Nifty gainers list. That was your M&M. That stock gained about 4% after UBS upgraded the counter to buy from an earlier rating of neutral. However, UBS did marginally cut its target price on the stock to 3,300 rupees from 3,460. Now, the revised price target still implies a good potential upside, which is about 27% from current levels. Now, what the brokerage called the correction in M&M stock price over the last month was just an overreaction on the back of EV-related news flows and Tesla's potential entry in India. UBS expects that going ahead, M&M's volumes is expected to grow by 9% in FY26, which would be led by strong demand for SUVs and the launch of its electric vehicles. UBS also added that while the farm equipment business is expected to do well, the plans of Tesla to enter the Indian market is not a major threat for M&M. So if you see for the month of February sales, we saw that the M&M's tractor sales also went up by 18% from last year. So good rural demand coming in, and of course tractor sales was a good sign from there. Yeah, then UBS prediction of 9% volume growth for M&M is quite positive given that industry is experiencing a slowdown. So what do you make of it?
So, there are new electric vehicles have seen an order book of nearly 6 months. Most importantly, UBS in a report writes that the electric vehicle portfolio doesn't get impacted by the entry of large players like Tesla. In fact, they believe that the kind of sell-off that we have seen in the stock is an overreaction, and the electric vehicle business as well as SUV volumes would grow in high single digits, moving forward. So, obviously, there was a phase where FIs were selling the stock of Mahindra and Mahindra, coupled with the bad news of Tesla entry. The stock did see a overreaction, but now a good bounce back post this UBS note. But Lovisha, also what did well in markets today was the entire Adani group. Earlier in the show, we spoke about how Adani group stocks made a comeback. But if you look at Adani Enterprises, a couple of news flows here. Number one is that they are in talks with private equity funds, including Citadel and Blackstone, to refinance the $750 million loan, which is outstanding for refinancing. Refinancing would probably help them increase the tenor of the loan and reduce interest rates, if any. And also, another $750 million is what they are looking to raise via debt and equity to fund the expansion of their airports business. Now, airport business is one of the largest business which is driving the valuation for Adani Enterprises at this point in time, and any kind of a fundraise in this market would probably help them execute the growth plans better. Apart from Adani Enterprises, we had the stock of Adani Green also doing well. In fact, that stock was up 10% in trade today. After they said that the expansion plans of 50 gigawatts are on track to be executed till 2030. Not only that, they recently refinanced 9,000 crore rupees of loans, which is close to more than a little more than $1 billion. So that is also good news with respect to the refinancing which has happened at Adani Green. If you look at Adani Power, we had ICICI Securities note which expects a 24% kind of upside from yesterday's closing price. So Adani Power also saw good news. And finally, we had Adani Ports which released its monthly cargo data, which saw 3% year-on-year growth in the month of February. So the news flow for Adani Group stocks continue to remain positive, given the fact that shares have corrected recently in the bear market. We saw smart bounce back in the entire Adani Group of stocks.
That's right, a good bounce back from Adani Group stocks. But let's take another stock in focus, that is your Granules India. The stock did fall as much as 3%, but it didn't. It made a recovery and it settled with about 3% gains. Now, why the fall and why did it came under limelight was after the US FDA made the warning letter to the company's Gagilapur unit public. Now, the warning letter highlights data integrity, quality and contamination issues, and the analysts do not expect a faster clearance for the plant too. The letter usually highlights that it establishes a failure on following adequate written procedures for cleaning and maintenance of equipment and the failure to maintain good buildings in a good state of repair. Now, the warning letter also said that certain small insects and even birds were entering the plant. So, yes, quite a negative news flow that is coming in for Granules India. Yatin, a very negative news for Granules, given that the Gagilapur facility contributes to 70% of the company's overall revenue. Where do you see the stock going ahead? Because we did see a good bounce back in the second half.
Yes, there was a bounce back along with the markets, but the markets were expecting a warning letter. Whether or not this warning letter escalates into an import alert is something which will keep the markets busy and guessing. But if the plant gets an import alert, it could be a big hit for a company like Granules. If they are able to resolve things mentioned in the warning letter with compliance of GMP, which is the good manufacturing practices, then probably Granules can get the accelerated approvals moving forward. But yes, as you mentioned, there is a big risk as far as Gagilapur unit is concerned, because if there is further scrutiny by US FDA, that could mean loss of substantial business for Granules today.
That's right. But with that, we have come to an end of this edition of the Closing Bell. Tomorrow we'll watch out what the Trump tariff announcements unfold to, whether or not there is indeed a relaxation on Canada and Mexican imports or not. But we'll watch out on those developments. But for now, it's a wrap from Yatin and me. Thank you for watching.